Do you ever wake up feeling like your schedule is overwhelming you and you haven't even started your day? Hi, I'm Allegra Ramos, a self care forward, brain science based productivity and time management expert, and I'm here to talk about what to do when your schedule is making you anxious or uncertain or fearful. So, join me for that in just a moment. But now I'm going to do a couple of things that I always do when I start my podcast. And that is to say hello to my listeners in over 90 countries. And I always like to comment on the countries that have newly popped up on my list. And one of those countries is South Africa, which is a country I have not been to, but one of my favorite comedians in the entire world is from South Africa, Trevor Noah. If you haven't read his book, it's amazing. It's called Born a Crime. And my favorite 1 hour special of his is called Where Am I? Oh my gosh. It is so brilliant. Amazing. I've watched it multiple times. Check it out. So along with the gem that is Trevor Noah, some other interesting facts about South Africa is that it is called the Rainbow Nation because its constitution officially recognizes 11 languages. That's amazing. It also has one of the tallest waterfalls on Earth at about 948 meters. So, what would that be? A little shy of 3,000 feet. And it has one of the largest known impact structures on the planet, the Vredefort Dome. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have no idea what an impact structure is, but I'm gonna have to look it up. I thought I knew what it was. When I read it, I was like, oh, it must be like where a meteor has hit the earth. But now I'm thinking impact structure. So I'm going to have to look that one up. But thank you. Welcome. Welcome to all of my listeners. And if you're watching me live, I am actually live. So feel free to chat or ask questions and I'll address them if possible. And if you're listening to the recording, this does go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. This will be episode, I believe, 167. I will see those comments as well. It just might take me a little bit longer. So thank you. Welcome. Thanks for joining me. And by the way, I have something new today, which is that you can now leave me a tip. So if you're enjoying my podcast or if you learn something, leave me a tip. You can either scan this QR code or you can go to my website, bywdreams.com, and you'll see in the top right corner, it says, leave me a tip, and you can leave me a tip that way. I appreciate them. Your donations and purchases help me to create more content and pay it forward to you by helping you lead a life where you are prioritizing yourself and your goals and taking care of yourself, which is why I do this. And if you're watching me for the first time, I am the author of these 4 short read workbooks. This one is newly available. My bestseller, 3-2-1 Done, 3 Simple Strategies to Get Your To-Do List Done, is newly available as an audiobook narrated by me. That's right. So it is available on a handful of platforms right now. And you can, again, find all of those. You can find everything at bywdreams.com, which is right here down at the bottom of my screen. So thank you for joining me. Before I start my podcast, there's one other thing I like to do, which is pull a card from this little deck of random positivity. I think everyone should have a random deck of positivity sitting within easy reach because, look, life is a lot. And I have to say, I am in what I think is the most challenging season of my life. And I'm not sure if it's just the season, kind of being in the sandwich season where you have people older than you in your family that you're helping out, and then you are still raising children. That's challenging. Also, just general world events is challenging. I am finding this to be an incredibly challenging season. I have to constantly pull out all the stops on my self-care to keep my mental health in check. You are not alone. If you if you feel overwhelmed. So I had a cold and my voice still hasn't recovered completely. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by world events, your life circumstances, your job, you are not alone. There is a lot going on. Just know that the brain science shows that doing something is always a good way to reclaim your power. So whether it is reading something positive or it is calling 5calls.org, if you haven't used this yet, 5calls.org is amazing. You can go there, type in your zip code. They will give you the phone numbers of your representatives, and they will give you scripts. So you can click on whatever it is that's bothering you, whether it is the destruction of national parks or whatever issue is challenging, you're like taking up brain space for you. They will have scripts for you. It takes 2 minutes to call all 2 or 3 of your representatives, depending on, if it's a national issue or state issue or whatever. 5calls.org is a great resource. I use it more often than I like these days. But again, taking action overcomes that feeling of powerlessness. And, as I say, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I'm just telling you what has worked for me. So when I am feeling powerless, I make a phone call. I pull a positivity card. I read a book. I write and answer a journal prompt. That's how I do these things. So let's pull a little positivity card. We become happier, much happier, when we realize that life is an opportunity rather than an obligation. Mary Augustine. We become happier, much happier, when we realize that life is an opportunity rather than an obligation. Mary Augustine. Yes, I think that if you pursue life as something that you just have to do to get by, that is just not a great attitude to approach life with. Sometimes I talk about this concept of framing. Maybe you've heard me mention it. And framing does not mean, putting a wooden structure around something, but it kind of has, a similar foundation in that, like when you have a picture, the frame that you put around it can completely change that picture. When you find the right frame, it's almost like you've painted that picture or you printed that picture or drawn that, whatever. It's like you've exponentially made it better because you found the perfect fit. And now that painting or picture or drawing or whatever piece of artwork looks its best. And when you put the wrong frame around it, you can make something beautiful look horrible. It's kind of like with clothing. If you think of yourself as the painting and your clothes as the frame, when you put on, how you feel when you put on clothes that look good on you. The color is right, the cut is right, the fabric is right. You feel stronger, empowered, more attractive. When you put on an outfit that doesn't look good on you, you feel the opposite. So it's the same idea with thoughts or experiences. Let's say the experience is the artwork and your thought about it is the frame. You can have the same experience, and if you frame it as a learning opportunity, it feels very different from if you frame it as a loss. So I can give you one example. I was taking part in these public speaking competitions, and I had advanced through a number of rounds, and I was really, really happy with my speech, and I was getting really great feedback about it. And then I got to a round where I didn't win. And I remember finishing this speech, being on stage, and just bursting with pride because I knew I did my best. The speech was so good. I did better than I even thought was possible, just in my delivery of the speech. And when I didn't win at the end of the night, I remember feeling confused because, one, I felt like I won because I delivered a speech that was so much better than I thought was even possible. And two, I felt like I won because most people in that room said that I delivered the best speech. There's so many little details to the story. I can't get into it right now. It'll take up the whole podcast. But I was confused because I didn't objectively win, but on the inside, I felt like I won. And then I went away for that weekend. I had a camping trip that had already been planned. And I remember I was sitting in the hammock thinking about how, like, why were these feelings in conflict? And like, why was the fact that I didn't quote unquote win bringing me down so much when I should be celebrating because I had had a major breakthrough. I had just delivered a speech that I didn't even know I could deliver. And that's when I thought about that lesson that school teachers in grade school are always saying, which is that trying your hardest is its own reward. And I think most of my life, I was just like, yeah, sure. It's just like one of those little euphemisms that teachers say to make you feel better, but it's not actually true. And then I realized that it was true. It was actually true. Doing your best is its own reward because I had felt it. The pride and excitement that I felt when I finished that speech was better than any other feeling I could have had. Like at that point, winning would have been truly secondary to the bliss and joy that I felt having done better than I thought I could do. And what I realized was that I was allowing the fact that I hadn't won the prize to frame this accomplishment of mine in a negative way. The accomplishment being a really great speech. But when I changed the frame to be the frame of doing your best is its own reward, suddenly I was happy and I didn't care that I hadn't won. Like, yes, it didn't feel good that it felt like, quote unquote, politics and things other than who gave the best speech had determined who won that night. But that was out of my control. All I could focus on was what was in my control. And so I think Mary Augustine, that's what she means, is that when we become much happier when we realize, when the frame that we put around the artwork of our life is to think of it as an opportunity and not an obligation. Because what do you do with opportunities? Opportunities are exciting. It's a chance to try something new, to have an experience you didn't have before. An obligation, that's drudgery. So thank you, Mary Augustine. Okay, so my topic today, what to do when your schedule has you feeling anxious or overwhelmed or uncertain. So as I have mentioned before, I studied anthropology in undergrad, and so I always go back to my anthropology training because while our culture, our everyday circumstances have changed a lot in the last 100 years, who we are as animals has not. Programming DNA doesn't change that fast. So the DNA that we are dealing with is the DNA of the hunter-gatherer, or actually it should be the gatherer-hunter. That was something we argued about in anthropology class. Why do we say hunter-gatherer? Most of the calories come from gathering, not hunting. But anyway, so our DNA is still the DNA of gather-hunterers who spend most of their day walking, looking for food. And there are still people on this planet who live like that. It's a small but loud percentage of us that live this uber modern life. I always find it surprising when you look up like how many people still live in rural environments, without constant electricity and internet and access to food. Okay. So I'm speaking to this group because that's my experience. Our circumstances have changed a lot, but our programming has not. When you feel fear or uncertainty or anxiety, the reason your heart starts to race is because the way our DNA is designed is that fear, uncertainty, anxiety means your life is in mortal danger. There is a lion about to pounce, or there are stampeding herd animals coming towards you, or you're afraid of running out of food. Like those are the key things that we would have been worried about 100, 150 years ago. Some people are still worried about those things today. And that's what our bodies are designed to deal with, that kind of stress, that kind of immediate stress. Like, okay, there's a lion. I need to get away from the lion. You got away from the lion, and now your body can let that adrenaline go and bring your heart rate back to normal, and everything's okay because there's no lion around. Except that our lions are now, meetings and deadlines and deliverables that never stop. We never get to a place where the dopamine rushes out of our body and we're calm again. Because again, stress only reads as life-threatening danger to our bodies. So, how do we ensure that our daily schedule does not become this thing that has our nervous system constantly on high alert? Look, there's lots of ways to do this, and I believe that all of them are important, right? You have to manage your diet. You have to manage your sleep. You have to manage your activities in order to help calm your nervous system. They all play a part because everything interacts with your nervous system. And if you aren't putting in things that help your nervous system to calm down, then you're putting in things that amp you up. Like, for instance, we probably all know people who maybe need to drink a little less caffeine because they're just like jittery, right? That's a chemical that you've eaten working on your nervous system. So sometimes it's circumstances working on your nervous system. Sometimes it's things that you put in your body working on your nervous system. Sometimes it's not getting enough sleep, right? We all don't deal with stress as well if we haven't slept the night before, because again, the lack of sleep is affecting our nervous system. So I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. These are, these are my experiences. This is also, what I know as an anthropologist. So what I have found to be the thing that helps to calm my nerves so that I can do the many things that I need to do every day is to plan. This is why I say planning makes everything easier, because a lot of our fear is based on the unknown. So you may have written down things in your planner that are happening tomorrow, but you might not have looked at it in the weeks or months since you first wrote that thing down. So having a practice as simple as coming up, looking at your schedule the day before so that you can tell your nervous system, hey, all I have to do is a podcast. I have to drop off my kid in the morning. I walk my dog. I have a podcast. Then I have a phone call at 1:00 that I'm already prepared for. And then I have a meeting with a contractor at 3:00 that I don't have to do anything for. And then, you're all set. You're good. You don't need to do anything. And just doing that little bit of planning will help to ease the stress and uncertainty that you have for the day. So, planning makes everything easier. I have a free training coming up soon called Master Your Morning that is going to talk more about how to ease this uncertainty and anxiety that we feel because we haven't executed on our plans. And you can sign up for it at subscribepage.com/MYM. It is a 1-hour training. There will be time for questions. You can attend more than once if you want to. They will not be recorded. They are going to be live. I want to allow people to ask questions without, those recordings then being used over and over again for other people. So they will not be recorded. They will be live. It is totally free. You're welcome to leave me a tip if you want, the QR code up there, or you can find the leave me a tip link on my website at bywdreams.com in the top right corner. But this is totally free, and I'm going to talk more about some of the things you can do to master your morning. And if you feel like you're ready to take this next step, to take control of your day and how you feel about it, then join me. I would love to have you. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen. And remember, planning makes everything easier.